Hello everyone, Father Jeff Lewis here again on this next video in our video series, kind of welcoming everyone back, kind of a series of welcome back messages for everyone as we approach the June 6th date and the return of the Sunday Mass. Now, I've spoken a couple of times in previous videos this idea of the return to the Sunday Mass, and even referred to the Sunday as the obligation to return to the Sunday Mass. And what does this mean? Well, we may or may not realize that the Sunday Mass, unless we are dispensed by proper ecclesial authority, such as Bishop Daly, our bishop, the Sunday Mass is a weekly holy day of obligation. We are obliged, we are required to attend the Sunday Mass. In fact, on pain of mortal sin, which sounds all dark and ominous and gloomy, I know, and I know that the idea of obligation, the Sunday Mass certainly feels like that sometimes. Oh, I'm so tired. Got so much to do today. I can't also go to Mass, or I can't only imagine what it must be like for families with like little kids at home. You got to wake the kids up. You got to slam breakfast down their throats. You got to wrangle them again. You got to dress them. You got to throw them in the car. You got to throw them out of the car and drag them to Mass and all the rest. It feels like an obligation, and but nonetheless, we have this obligation. We are obliged for the Sunday Mass, and on June 6th, that obligation returns. The dispensation from that obligation comes to a close. And so, what does this mean for us? And the obligation, and again, it's on pain of mortal sin that if we skip the Sunday Mass, we have committed mortal sin. It's a sin of omission, a grave one at that. Now, if we're out in the middle of nowhere, we've gone hiking, and we're literally nowhere near a Catholic church, we can't possibly get to Mass, or even more commonly, I'm sick as a dog, I'm in the hospital, I've got an accident, I can't get to Mass. By the fact that you can't get to Mass, you're dispensed from the obligation. But that's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about is we've chosen willfully to skip the Sunday Mass. Oh, I got so much to do there. You got to mow the lawn, kids got a soccer game. I'm just going to sleep in and then take it easy. That's skipping the Sunday Mass. And we've got to do better at planning ahead in order to fulfill the obligation. And planning ahead means looking, okay, if I know I can't make it to Mass at my usual parish at this time, what about another time? What about another parish at another time? Here in the Spokane Valley, we have 4 Catholic parishes with a variety of Mass times. During the summer months, I'm going to add a 5th Mass time here at St. Mary. It's going to be Sunday evenings at 7 p.m., kind of a last chance Mass, as it were. And so we'll have plenty of opportunities to get to the Mass. Now, what is the Sunday obligation from the Church's point of view? It is the Church's response and answer to the third commandment. Remember that Jesus came not to abolish the law and the prophets, but to fulfill them. So how is the third commandment fulfilled in Jesus Christ and his church? It is fulfilled in that we celebrate our Sabbath. We keep holy the Sabbath. And for us, that is the first day of the week, Sunday. And why Sunday? Because that is the day Jesus Christ rose from the dead. Which we celebrate each year on Easter, of course. And each Sunday is, as it were, a little Easter. Each Sunday is a celebration of the resurrection. And so we keep holy the Sabbath, the day when Christ rose from the dead. For the Jews, the 7th day of the week was their day of rest. For them, that was Saturday. Sunday is the first day of the week. And so for Christians, that Sabbath rest is transferred to Sunday, again, in commemoration and celebration of the resurrection. And so this springboards us now into a teaching that I'd like to offer briefly on what are called the 5 precepts of the Catholic Church. What are the precepts? The precepts are, as it were, kind of the absolute minimum actions that are required of the Catholic faithful with regard to our commitment to the Church. The absolute minimum, and there's only 5. Okay? The Church uses, I'm going to read just off my screen here, a definition. The Church uses these precepts to remind us that the Christian life requires a commitment to prayer and active participation in the liturgy and the sacraments. And so if we fall below this bare minimum level, then we can't in good conscience, really consider ourselves in full communion with the Catholic Church. Now, that's not to say that all of us are perfectly abiding by the 5 precepts at all times. We have the intention, we're doing our best. I get that. We're growing in our faith. We continue to grow in our faith all our lives. But maybe a familiarity with the 5 precepts is another thing that will help us continuing to grow in our faith. And so what are these 5 precepts? The first, as I mentioned, You shall attend Mass on Sundays and on holy days of obligation and rest from servile labor. Servile labor meaning like try not to do what you normally do Monday through Friday also on Sunday. Don't answer work emails or phone calls as best as you can. These sorts of things, okay? Mowing the lawn, that's a different activity. Sometimes that can be recreative for people. Certainly taking the kids to games and so on, like that is work, but it's not the servile labor of what the church means. So we must sanctify the day that commemorates the resurrection of the Lord, which for us is again Sunday, and the principal feast days throughout the year, which there are only like 5 or 6. There's like All Saints on November 1st, and Christmas on December 25th, Immaculate Conception on December 8th. What else is there? There's the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary on August 15th. Like those are the holy days of obligations. Not that many. Okay, so we can do it. So that's the number 1. Number 2, you shall confess your sins at least once a year. They call this the Easter duty. They used to call it the Easter duty anyway. So we're required at the very least to receive Holy Communion once a year. I'll get to that in a moment. And so we ought to receive Holy Communion only in a state of grace. So if it's been a year since our last confession, I guarantee it, we probably committed at least one venial sin. None of us are living saints here on earth in all likelihood. So we ought to go to confession at least once a year. And so if it's been longer than that since you last went to confession, I realize in the days of COVID, it's been a little strange, but that's starting to phase out. We're phasing back into normalcy a bit more. There's light at the end of the tunnel. We might make it a point to make that pilgrimage to the Chapel of Mercy and go to confession. The third precept of the Catholic Church is you shall receive the sacrament of the Eucharist at least during the Easter season. For most Catholics, this seems to be no problem at all. I think most Catholics have gotten into the good habit of frequent reception of Holy Communion. Most Catholics, that means basically every time they attend Mass, which is good in one sense. On another sense, we've got to make sure that we are receiving worthily. That is, in a state of grace, not in a state of mortal sin. So, going back to the second precept of the Catholic Church, going to confession at least once a year. Certainly we ought to go whenever we recognize that we are in a state of mortal sin. Okay, so the fourth precepts of the Catholic Church, also not really a major issue for most Catholics, but you shall observe the days of fasting and abstinence established by the Church. We have 2 days of fasting in the whole year, Ash Wednesday and Good Friday. And by and large, just about every Catholic I know does very well at abiding by that, with the exception of maybe I forgot, okay? But no one is deliberately violating that kind of rule. And abstinence means, during the certain days of the year, we abstain from meat. Again, Fridays in Lent, most people are pretty good at that. So that's the fourth precept of the Church. And the last precept is you shall help provide for the needs of the Church. And again, this one is not one that most Catholics I know have any issue with. We tithe, or we give something to the collection plate as best as we can. We volunteer for the needs of the parish and in the ministries of the Church. We don't have to necessarily tithe or volunteer for the parish, but lots of people help out with Catholic charities, St. Mary's School here, these sorts of things. So anyway, those are the 5 precepts of the Church, and if we did not know what these were before now, hopefully this will be an occasion to help us to grow in holiness. So again, just briefly to review, the first precept, you shall attend Mass on Sundays and on holy days of obligation and rest from servile labor. And number 2, you shall confess your sins at least once a year. Number 3, you shall receive the sacrament of the Eucharist at least once a year during the Easter season. Number 4, you shall observe the days of fasting and abstinence established by the Church. And number 5, you shall help provide for the needs of the Church. And again, the 5 precepts of the Catholic Church, kind of the bare minimum of what we are obliged to do as Catholics in order to be kind of in good standing with the Catholic Church. Okay, so that's our video for today. Our Welcome Back series continues soon with the next video. I'll see you again very soon. God bless you all.